Hi and welcome back to another garden video. This time I'm going to harvest a lot of different things, and the clip right here where I harvested some of the beans is where we left in the last video. So now I'm just going to harvest all of these. There's not so many. This is the the first harvest of beans this year, so I still got a few of them, so that's really nice. And the first ones I took were the purple ones, and then I also had a few of the green ones right here. So that's a nice little harvest, and that's enough for dinner tonight. Now I'm in the greenhouse where I'm also going to do the first big harvest. I have only taken a few chilies and tomatoes until this point, but as you can see there are a lot of tomatoes that are getting ripe, and there are also a lot of chilies that are ready to be harvested. And especially here in the middle section, there's a lot of chilies on these plants, especially this Santa Fe plant. It's really prolific. So I'm just going to harvest a lot of these, and then I'll show you what I'm going to do with it afterwards. I have this small bucket that I'm using when I'm going down into the greenhouse and harvesting, because there's so little space right now. And then I'm coming back up here and putting it into this bigger tub. So that's a little easier for me, as you can see. The tomatoes are really filling out the greenhouse right now, and I have to prune them again. But this way also works really good. And this is the Santa Fe plant that I showed you before, and there's a lot of small chilies on here, and if you let them go a little longer, they will ripen to a light red color. So these are all the chilies that I'm going to harvest right now. There's still a lot more on the plant, but I would also like for some of them to get red. And now I'm going on with the tomatoes, and there's a lot of these really big, nice Oxheart tomatoes that are ripen right now. Sometimes I'll also harvest them just when they are beginning to ripen, so that the bugs won't get in them, because I'm struggling a little with that. And you can see in a moment that I have a few tomatoes where there have been some bugs in, and I'll still use the tomatoes because they're so big. So you can see the cavities here. So I'm just going to cut some of it off, and I'll show you that later when I'm also processing all of the chilies. And this first tomato harvest wasn't that big, but it's still a beginning, so that's really nice. And then there's this little apple tree that we planted a few years ago, and this is the first year that's actually giving some apples. And they are all ripe now, so I'm going to harvest them as well. And that filled up this bucket about halfway, so that's a really nice harvest for such a small tree. And I also have these calendulas that are giving a lot of flowers right now, so I'm going to harvest some more that I can use for tea. And the more you will harvest the flowers, the more they will give. And I got a lot of them this time. It almost filled up this little bucket. So that's really nice. And that makes a lot of good tea for the winter. And now onto the zucchinis again. It's almost every third day or so that we are harvesting them, and about 20 to 30 kilos each week. And we have to harvest them often, because else they will, in a week or so, they will just get up to 10 kilos each. So if we also have, we got to have the possibility to eat them all, we cannot let them get too big. And that's even though I'm selling a few and gifting away a lot of them as well. But soon I will be making some relish out of them, so that we can have that all winter long. And I like to have all of these different colors of zucchini, especially the yellow ones, and I have some that's almost gray and green with stripes and so on. And this is all of that little harvest I just did today, and we actually got a lot out of it. And this is the first really big harvest of different things, not only the zucchinis. And we also have some blackberries, and I actually let them get a little too far, so they are really ripe now and almost smushy. But I'll just harvest the ones that are still a little firm. They're really big, almost as my thumb. So I got about 300 grams here. And then I can just harvest some more when they are ripening. And this is all of the harvest when I brought it inside, so you can see it a little more clearly here without the sun. And all of the flowers I will dehydrate, but not in a dehydrator. I'll just put them onto this dish towel and let them dry in the heat of the summer. So that saves a lot of energy to do it this way, and it works with a lot of herbs as well. And I weighed the tomatoes, and there was more than 2 kilos, so that's a really nice first harvest. And there's also about 1.5 kilo of the chilies. And I'm going to process them right now, so I'm washing them. They're not really dirty, but sometimes there'll some small bugs or a little dust or something like that. So it's just nice to get them washed off before I will do anything with them. And because of this really nice summer weather, I'm going to sit outside in the shade and process all of these. And the first thing I'm doing is these tomatoes that there had gotten some bugs into. I'm going to process them. Now just cut off all of the bad things and then cut them into smaller pieces and put them in a bag and into the freezer. And then when I'm going to make tomato sauce later on in the year, I will just use these up in the tomato sauce because they're not fully ripened yet. So I don't want to eat them as they are right now. I like my tomatoes really ripe and sweet and juicy. And now onto all of the chili peppers. I'm going to make cowboy candy out of most of them, so I'm removing the stems, and with some of them I will also remove the seeds so that it's not too spicy. We like some spice, but not too much, especially Preben. So especially with these bigger ones, it's easy to remove the seeds, and then some of the smaller peppers where it's more difficult, I'll just let them be inside. And I'm putting on a plastic glove so that it doesn't hurt my hands or my eyes if I put my fingers in my eyes. And then I'm just chopping away, and I'll fill this whole bag up and freeze it, so when I have enough I will make the cowboy candy. And these are some of the smaller peppers, and that's the ones that I'm just cutting up as they are. And now I have filled that whole bag, and then the bag I'm going to put some more chilies in is the one with the tomatoes. And I'm also not removing all of the seeds from these, but then when I'm going to make the tomato sauce, I can also use these chilies because that other bag was filled all the way up. And this is all for this time. I'm just going to put all of the stems and the seed in the compost and the 2 bags into the freezer. And thank you really much for watching this video again, and I hope that you will subscribe. That will help me a lot. And as always, you can go and follow us on Instagram at Vestas Farm Life. Bye bye.